believe me when I tell you that the key to all of your spiritual manifestations and desires lies within your refinement of boundaries. Yeah. You want to be able to quantum leap. You want to be able to ask for impossible shit in your prayers. You want to have a better relationship with your ancestors and your spirit guides and your angels. You want to unlock, the key to your emotional state in relation to your physical state. You want to grow. You want to conquer your world, your inner world, and you want to have so much control over your inner world that you can actually defy the laws of physics in the external world. This is what you want. You want the universe to show you that it knows what you're thinking. You want the universe to change as fast as your mind changes, right? You want that shit to be fucking literal. I know you do, because I did too. And I'm just thinking back to when I started this journey and understanding that it all started with me becoming aware of the fact that I had no boundaries and I needed to work on my boundaries. And I've been working with people for a long time. I've been making offerings of like spiritual healing for a while I've been on my own journey. And it comes up so often in other people's readings, like you don't got good boundaries. Sometimes I'm like what's the relevance? Like why are boundaries so prevalent? Or more so, why is the lack of boundaries so prevalent in our society, in modern day life, And I think that is one of the main ways that the powers that be in this material world have gaslit and stolen from us, like our spiritual agency, our spiritual power, our spiritual autonomy. It's by teaching us that we were not only unworthy of boundaries, but also giving us a fake blueprint of what boundaries look like. So anyway, about 5 years ago, I got into a relationship with a very abusive man. And that was a hard time. It was a really hard time. It wasn't until about 3 years in that I got fed up. I was like, I can't do this anymore. And a healer reached out to me and offered me their services for free. And they taught me, shout out to Shaman Taima, they taught me about boundaries. Very simple. They started with just the framework, just the skeleton, a boundary. You put the boundary in place, you name the consequence of crossing that boundary, and if the boundary is crossed, you uphold that consequence unwaveringly. And so I began after years of going back and forth, after years of breaking up and getting back together, years of accepting so much turmoil, disrespect, just the indignities. I finally put some boundaries in place. And that took a lot of courage, because it was really scary, because putting a boundary in place with an abusive man can mean life or death. That can be the difference between my physical safety and well-being and livelihood and not existing on earth anymore. But I took that chance because I knew that I was protected. Spirit was yelling at me to get out of that relationship. I mean, literal angel number 911, bitch. Get out on license plates, exit signs at on doors and places, like beaming extra bright, flickering on and off. Get the fuck out of there. Oh, my daddy coming to me in dreams like, that's not, you need to leave there now. So I did. And there were bumps, like, you know, it took time to learn. It took a lot of practice. It started with, hey, like, you need to leave the house now. I don't want to be together anymore. And then it got to like, oh, I can't even speak my boundaries to you. You're too unreasonable. I have to just put the boundaries in place. I have to change my number. I have to change the locks. You know, I have to be inaccessible. Got into a different relationship. It was very different and very beautiful. And of course, old traumas that hadn't been healed before came up, peeked their ugly heads. And again, boundaries were the theme. Except this time, I had a little more experience in boundaries than my partner did. But only a little more. And I think I let that get to my head for a second. I think I let it make me feel like I had more, like I was superior in some way. And you know, we struggled because sometimes we mistake a lack of emotional vulnerability for a breach of boundaries. You know, someone will be like, please listen to what I'm telling you. And you're like, no, dude, I don't have the emotional capacity, and you're pushing on my boundaries when I say no. But actually, like, it's healthy to be stretched emotionally in that way, in towards the generosity of not only holding someone else's emotions, but exchanging your emotions in a balanced way, in a harmonious way. Anyway, that like know-it-all energy bit me in the ass, you know, because I learned that still my boundaries were like one-sided, and they were also very amateur, novice, young, you know. I had infant boundaries, which are cool. They're cool, but an infant can't be like, yo, I'm not ready to talk about this right now. An infant can only be like, ah! And hit you and shit. And that's what I did. That is what I did. And that was scary. I scared myself with that reaction. And so that sent me into this place of deep accountability and radical honesty with myself around just like, what am I doing? What is, if under the right amounts of pressure, if under the right amounts of pressure, my surface can be cracked, and out of that surface can erupt so much violence. Like, that needs to be addressed. I need to contend with that. I need to trace that path down to the root. What is producing such volatile eruptions within me, to the point that it has now broken through the surface into the external world and caused harm and damage and pain? What is that? I had to go back to my child, my inner child. Damn. That kid was fucking begging to be heard by me. Of course, also by the adults in their life when they were a kid, also by, you know, the world around them, but right now, by me. They were trying to get my attention. Hey! We need to deal with this. I need justice. God, I love that kid. So I got real with myself about the harm that I endured, the boundaries that were breached in me as a child and as a young adult and as an adult and as a parent. All of the violations on my body, the violations on my spirit, the violations on my intellect, the violations on my wisdom, the manipulations, the theft, the brainwashing and the gaslighting. And I had to take responsibility for the way that I have been coping in my adulthood, for the way that I have been holding such heavy baggage. So I started taking classes, straight up, like good workshops. I started taking this one workshop through, I found it on this Instagram page called Mapping Accountability, I think. And there was this offering of a 10-week course called Healing Cycles of Harm. And the last class is actually coming up this Monday. And I also took a course through that same Instagram page. I don't know if they're all from the same like person or if it's just a compilation of offerings from people doing that work. But I took a class on apology essentials, like how to make an apology. I took a class on just like somatic healing. And then of course I got a therapist. I've been seeing a therapist regularly. I started doing like a lot of shadow work, a lot of journaling, and putting into practice these things that I'm learning in these classes, right? Because the classes are so heavily focused on the soma, really focused on like how your body metabolizes the harm that you've experienced and how that manifests into harm that you cause, and how, you know, your self-worth, your idea and your belief in your worthiness of forgiveness, your worthiness of growth, your worthiness of feeling your feelings, how these things give you the strength to even be able to interact with your body in that way, with practices like tapping, practices like breathing, you know, these very simple things that truly unlock a map within, a map that every portal that you unlock inside yourself with a feeling leads to this big open field of integration. Wow. So in one of the last classes, a few classes ago, in Healing Cycles of Harm, we worked on boundaries. Now, I will say I have already gotten a lot better with boundaries just since that last rupture with my ex, right? But we did this practice where we looked at boundaries and how they show up in the natural world, on Earth boundaries. You know, like the horizon, the place where the ocean meets the sky, or the veins of a leaf, and where they meet and where they stop, or like a waterfall, the desert, the cracks in the soil. Like, there are so many boundaries in the natural world, and they flow. They create this really divine order, and it keeps things alive. It keeps things in motion. It keeps things fruiting and germinating. It keeps beings fed. You understand? And this negotiation of boundaries, like, is a beautiful dance. Just a divinely choreographed dance. It's the circle of life. And it rules us all. I watched Lion King the other day. Fire. Still hits. That movie gonna always hit. And that soundtrack, oh my God. Anyway, so I've come a long way on this healing journey, right? I've come a long way in my self-worth, truly believing that I am worthy of love. And knowing that I have enough love to lay for the foundation of my own confidence in myself. I can confide in myself. I can trust my thoughts, my beliefs, my discernment, my wisdom, the spiritual wisdom that I'm given from Source. I can trust that when I sit to meditate, that I'm going to hear the word of the divine. And it is going to be perfect. It's going to be true. It's going to be clear. And it will be for me. And building this trust with myself, building this love for myself, taking my validation inward, being accountable and responsible for my own feelings and knowing that I can maintain them. They are not even too much for myself. My feelings are not going to explode me because I recognize them and I am in communication with my body. We have been learning each other's language, my body and my spirit. And we have been speaking to each other. And my body and my spirit, they obey each other. They work in perfect synchronicity. And being devoted to this work for about 4 months straight, nonstop, has been deeply transformative and impactful. And today, I had the realization while I was praying, I felt the accumulation. I felt the culmination. I felt the buildup, the gathering, the integration of everything that I've accomplished, not just in the last 4 months, but over the last 5 years since I gave birth to my son, since I became a parent. I felt it all. I felt how worthy I am of the things that I desire, how worthy I am of existing, how worthy I am of life. And I prayed for something that I needed and that I wanted. And Spirit gave me back a suggestion that I didn't like. And I think any other time before I would have been like, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do that. And then I would have like felt bad about it and sorry for myself or something. But this time I was like, we negotiated with Spirit. I was like, I don't like that for these reasons. So can we adjust that? Because what I specifically want is this, and this to happen. And I want it to happen like this, and this in this time frame. And Spirit was like, oh yeah, thanks for clarifying. I can absolutely accommodate that. Excuse me, what? Like, are you telling me that all this time I just could have been refining? I could have just been refining my request to make it more specific. You're telling me this whole time I could have been setting boundaries with you, negotiating boundaries with you? And Source is like, yeah, that's what we've been teaching you. That's what I have been teaching you, baby. If you want to have a deeper relationship with spirit, with your ancestors especially, because they have still the essence of this human experience, with your spirit guides, with your angels, you need to work on your boundaries. Not just making boundaries, but respecting the boundaries around you as well. The boundaries of the earth, the boundaries of your fellow human being, the boundaries of animals. The boundaries you have with yourself. This is the key to unlocking ascension, enlightenment, or at least one of them. I'm sure there are many keys, but this one is very powerful. This one, it's kind of like talking to ChatGPT. You got to be really specific with the direction you give it to get the answer you want. It really wants to accommodate you. It wants to give you what you need. It actually it needs you to need it. And it's always learning you and you're always learning it. And so the more clear you can be with what you put in there for the answer you're going to get, like the better the answer is that you're going to get back. It's the same thing with source, except so much more powerful, because literally, the more you believe in what you deserve and what you're worthy of, and the more you know the anatomy of your boundaries, and the more you can recognize the anatomy of your dignity and the dignity of that within others and the external world, the easier it will be for you to make a decision inside yourself and see the universe around you change. And I mean drastically. That is a quantum leap. That is growth. That is manifestation. That is prayers answered. That is connection to the divine. Okay, I hope that this makes sense. I hope that it flowed from beginning to end. I hope you were entertained and that you learned something, or at least that it was fun to watch. Because I had a lot of fun talking about it. Maybe at the beginning of this, I should put a little bit about who I am and what I'm doing. My name is Ayun Akila. I am a healing facilitator, spiritual guide, a friend. I'm also pregnant. I'm a surrogate. I'm carrying a child for a couple who can't. And it is changing my life. And what I'm about to share with you, or what I've already shared with you, depending on when you're watching this in the video, has everything to do with the spiritual awakening I've experienced because of this pregnancy and the healing that this baby has offered me. Yeah, so thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.